In this mini lecture, we're going to examine Chapter 10 on managing teams. Here are the learning outcomes for this chapter. You may pause here to review them. Chapter 10 looks at the concept of work teams. Work teams are just a small number of people who have complementary, the key is complementary skills, who are mutually accountable for pursuing a common goal, achieving performance, and improving work processes. And by using work teams, firms are able to respond to problems and challenges within the organization. There are different types of teams. The first is a traditional work group. This is two or more people who work together. In this situation, a manager is in charge of making the decisions and giving tasks or orders to their subordinates. An employee involvement group is a team that provides advice or makes suggestions to management. However, management is ultimately responsible for making the end decision. A semi-autonomous group is a group that works with management to help make a decision. So they have the authority to make decisions and solve problems related to producing products and services. And then a self-management team is very similar to semi-autonomous team, except that they actually put themselves into teams and they add and eliminate individuals as needed. So there are advantages to having teams. Teamwork can lead to increased customer satisfaction, better products and services, increased speed and efficiency, better job satisfaction for employees, and it helps when making decisions. We'll come back to cross-training in a little bit. A disadvantage of teams is that sometimes you don't always get the best answer. When you first form teams, you can have high turnover. There's social loafing, where one person doesn't put in their fair share. We've all seen that. Groupthink can happen where everybody starts to agree to each other. They feel the pressure to not disagree, so they all agree. And domination, one or two people dominate team discussions. And then sometimes when you have a team, there's people don't feel as accountable because it's a team decision and action, not an individual one. So there are situations when you should and shouldn't use a team. You should use a team when there's a reason to use a team, not just because. You can't do the job unless people work together. You are able to reward and incentivize teams and their performance, and you have resources available to support the team. Conversely, don't use teams if there's no reason not to. If there's no reason to use a team, don't. If the job can be done by somebody working independently, if rewards are provided more for individual effort and performance, and you don't have or you don't have resources to support your team. All right, and so you can look at this chart and it can kind of show you different responsibilities and what's included in each type of team. All right, there's other special kinds of teams other than the four we initially listed. So cross-functional teams are when employees from different functional areas are cross-trained. And this allows for people to cover when somebody is missing or can help to better facilitate teamwork. Virtual teams, I'm sure we're all aware of this, are when people use technology to work as a team, such as Zoom, teleconferencing, etc. And then a project team is a team that is put together to complete a one-time project or task within a specified time frame. It's really important to set goals for your teams using the SMART goals that we talked about in previous chapters. And it's important that when you're setting these goals, that your goals challenge your team. And these are called stretch goals. So they're challenging goals. This helps to reduce social loafing and can increase motivation. All right, so here's another slide on stretch goals. And you can read more about this if you want to pause here. All right. So as you're aware that all teams have some standard of norms. And so norms are some informal standards that regulate team behaviors. It's kind of an informal way that we all agree to do something. And they are developed by observing other team members. And you can see that they're developed around quality and timeliness of job performance, absenteeism or lack thereof, safety, and honesty. And so team norms are really important in helping to regulate our teams. However, it can be bad if you have negative team norms, like where absenteeism is encouraged. And so it's really important to understand the team norms and know which ones are positive and which ones could use some changing. It's also important to have team cohesiveness, and this is the extent to which team members are motivated and they enjoy working in their team. All right, and we can encourage or promote team cohesiveness by making sure by having team activities, team meetings, team socials, having opportunities for people to work together, and really helping teams and employees to feel like they're part of something bigger, like they're part of a larger organization. It's also important to have the right size of a team, and this is really going to depend on what the team is being used for. In general, a good sized team is somewhere between 6 and 9 people. You don't want it to be too large where people aren't able to contribute, but you also don't want it to be too small where it's overwhelming. The task is overwhelming. You probably also realize that with teamwork comes conflict, and usually team conflict it can happen over a disagreement of how we're going to achieve our goals. And so there's 2 types. There's C-type or cognitive, and this is when individuals in a group don't agree on how to solve the problem. We just have a difference of opinion on how to solve the problem. Affective or A-type is really more emotional and more personal disagreements, like I just don't like this person. And both of these happen in workplaces, and so you have to work to overcome these team conflicts when you have teamwork. All right, so there's a popular theory about the stages of team development, which says that all teams go through 4 stages of development. So first, a team forms, and they meet, and people start to form initial impressions and start to establish some norms. In the second stage of development, you'll start to have some conflict and disagreement where teams disagree over what the team should do and how it should be done. And then as they start to kind of work through these conflicts, you have the third stage of norming, in which team members begin to settle into their roles. So you have some cohesion and you have positive team norms. And then ultimately, the 4th step is performing. And this is where performance improves and the team has matured and they're effective and fully functioning. And you can see the stages of team development. Now, there also is the downside. There's denorming, destorming, and deforming. And so if we don't have effective management, team performance can decline. And this occurs in 3 stages. Denorming is where we have a reversal of the norming stage. Team performance begins to decline. Goals aren't being met. Members of the team begin to change. We go into destorming, in which the team's comfort level decreases, cohesion weakens, and we start to have more conflict. And the deforming, and this is where individuals in the team start to isolate each other from themselves, and they try to do things more independently. So how can we increase team effectiveness? Well, again, we can set team goals and priorities. Make sure we're selecting the correct people for the team. Again, the idea is people with complementary skills. So we don't want people who all have the same skill sets. Provide team training and making sure that we're recognizing and adequately compensating our team. When selecting people for our teamwork, we have to understand the degree of individualism versus collectivism. And so individuals will tend to want to work by themselves, where collectivists will want to work with others. We also have to look at who's the team composed of and the variety of diversity in the team, diversity in ability, experiences, personalities, etc. We have to train our team, and that can include interpersonal skills, decision-making and problem-solving, conflict resolution, training on the specific technical aspects. And these are all really important in making sure that your team is cohesive. And then we have to make sure that we compensate and recognize our teams. And that can be difficult in a team because you're maybe not compensating and rewarding one individual like we're used to. And so we can do skill-based pay where we compensate employees for learning additional skills, gain sharing where companies share the financial gains. So if there was increased productivity, increased cost savings, then they would pass that on to the team members that we're helping. And then there's other non-financial rewards like providing a work party or providing, just an award at a banquet or something in that nature. All right, so that is a brief overview of Chapter 10. If you have any questions, please let me know.